We'll go ahead and call our, I guess this is the April meeting together, call it into session. Before we get into approval of the minutes on the agenda, you call roll. Are you prepared to call roll? Okay. We're going to call roll first. We'll start doing that. If you would, Madam Secretary, do call roll, please.
Preble Acton, Rhonda Allen,
She's on her way.
Dr. Andrea Anthony, here. Jim Bowles, here. Amber Brown, here. Christy Crowell, Mary Hickerson, here. Deborah Kennedy, Mayor Ketron,
Here.
Lois Miller, here. Alan McAdoo, here. Jeff Phillips, present. Jeff Sandvig, here. Shante Sherrill.
Well, I'd like to welcome everyone today and all of our guests in the audience. We welcome you. Like to give a special welcome for two new members coming onto the Insurance Committee. That is Lois Miller. Lois, this is your first time to sit out there compared to up here, so welcome. And our next newest member is Amber Brown. Amber, glad to have you, and hope you find this fulfilling, and look for your expertise as well. So the chair will entertain a motion for approval of the minutes. Have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Where was the second? Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor of approval of the minutes signify by saying aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll move on to the financials. Mr. Elam, you're recognized.
All right. If you look at your first set of graphs, the Fund 264, by the calendar year with 3 months, you look at your 2018 revenue at $23.4 million and your expenses at $16 million. Compared to 2019, now we're at revenues at $23.8 million with your expenses at $15.5. Then if you go down to the fiscal year when we have 9 months, 2017, 18 revenue was $15.9 million, expenses was $49.2, and compared to 2018-19, revenue at $54.6 million and expenses at $51.9. And if you move down and look at the graph, it's just showing you a trend. We don't see any major change. It looks like everything's trending about the way it did last year.
Ed, if you would, audio stepped in and said, pull your mic a little closer to you. There you go. They're not, yes, sir. I would assume they weren't picking you up. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
There you go.
That's it. Excuse me. All right, so now if you go to the next page, you see a 2019 calendar year revenue less expenses is $8.2 million. Keep in mind, Board of Education, those summer months, with them being on 10 months, that number looks pretty large, but it'll be eaten back up in the summer months when the Board of Education is on that 10-month period instead of in the summer months. 2018-19 fiscal year revenue less expenses is $2.7 million. If you look at the total there, and you ready for Fund 266?
Okay.
Fund 266 on the workers' comp. In the first graph, you have year-over-year paid claims. Your workers' comp and your on-the-job injury combined paid claims fiscal year 2017-18 compared to fiscal year 2018-19. And then on the bottom graph, you have workers' comp versus on-the-job injury expenditures. And when you look at this bottom graph, I'll keep you in mind that workers' comp claims, since they went to the OJI, your workers' comp claims will continue to go down over a period of time due to as the claims resolve themselves. And your OJI will continue to increase or stay the same as you go through injuries, since that eventually that workers' comp will completely go away over time. On the next page, if you look in the box where it says year-to-date, for 2017-18, you have $726,115. Year-to-date expenses total 2018 to 19 is $552,648, which gives you $173,000 less expenses this year compared to last year, which is about 24% decrease.
Those are good numbers?
Yep.
Absolutely. Does that conclude your report?
That concludes the report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions? I'll entertain a motion to accept the report on the financials. Is there a motion? And second? Any questions? Discussion? Seeing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, motion carries. On to item 3, our OJI stats. Mr. Good. Things are always good. All right.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'd like to report in the month of March that we had a total of 22 injuries across the county requiring medical attention. That brings it up for the year-to-date to 51. Just to remind you that OSHA computes its injuries on a calendar year, so we're talking January to the present. Of those 51 injuries, the total recordable are 34. 15 of those had restricted days, 7 were lost time days, and 12 were all others. Next page, you'll see that the incurred dollars for those 22 injuries were right at $67,000. And as you look at the next page, that first graph, you'll notice it's comparing this year to date to the 2 previous years. And we're basically back on line where we were 2 years ago. Last year was a little bit of a peak year. We kind of started off in 2017 at this time with 51. We up to 67 last year at this time, and we're back to 51 again this year. So we've kind of brought that back under control there some. That's also reflected in the next graph when you look at your dollars. In 2017 at this time, we were at $100,000. Last year at this time, it was $223,000, and we're back to $104,000 at this time last year, or this year rather. So we're back on, like I say, back on track.
Mr. Good, what type of claims are you seeing? What type of claims are you actually seeing?
The ones that are struck or injured by students hitting or inmates hitting or something striking an employee out there, slip, trips, and falls, and strains are the big 3 right now.
Okay.
And strains can either be from trying to lift a patient or lift a load that's injured the employee or caught them in a bad balance. So.
Okay. And slip and falls, of course, that's all over insurances, all retail locations. That's
Yes,
usually
sir.
their highest claim is slip and falls. Okay.
As you look at your next page of your report, you'll see a breakdown of the Board of Education had 15 of those injuries, and the incurred dollars were $21,800 for the Board of Education. The county had 7 injuries, and the incurred dollars there were $45,187. And then as you look at the last page of your report, we like to report across the county where those injuries were, and they were in PAWS, Fire and Rescue, the Sheriff's Department, and the Ambulance Department for the 7 for the county. Are there any questions?
So, Ms. Allen.
On the second to last page, you've got the motor vehicle. Looks like that was a motor vehicle accident. Are we going to recover any funds from that?
We do have a number of things in subrogation for that. Every motor vehicle accident actually gets a police report done on it. We get that police report in, and then we analyze to make sure that the individual is identified who is at fault, and if there's insurance that that individual has, then we do recover those dollars through subrogation, yes. And I do know right now we've got about 3 vehicle claims active, and all 3 of them are actually under subrogation. So we are getting the money back on those. Thank you very much.
Let me ask one question on pause. Do our animal control officers, do they wear protective gloves or anything to keep from?
They do have protective stuff available to them, the gloves and things like that. Right now, one of the things that's going through is a lot of the stuff with some of the new employees that are coming in that are actually part-time employees that are cleaning the cages and things like that. They're not quite accustomed on how to work with the animals. It takes a little bit of time just to learn the animals, and so that's what we're getting through pause. We get a lot of cuts and scratches and bites from the animals.
I think if they're new and not accustomed to them, then they ought to be wearing those protective
Yes, sir.
gloves.
Yes, sir. And I know that Michael Gregory, the director, is looking at that because him and I have had that discussion.
Yeah, okay. Other questions, concerns for Mr. Good and his report? Is there a motion to accept OSHA report? Is there a motion? Motion and second? Second. Wanda Allen is on the second. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Next, we have the wellness update from Mr. Chapa.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we are in full swing with the Know Your Numbers campaign. Currently, we're at 675 annual physicals to date. We're seeing an uptick in that number as a lot of individuals are starting to go out this time of year and get their annual physicals. Biometric screenings are at 1,214. Online health assessments are at 458. Mammograms are at 554. OBGYN screenings are at 842. Colon cancer screenings are 212. Cervical cancer screenings, we've completed 788. Prostate exam screenings are 213. Flu shots at 1,697. And to date, currently, we have 1,693 individuals that have met their goal of 3 points for the incentive campaign for this year. So we're seeing some very impressive numbers with that. And a lot of this is due with the ease of being able to have claims-driven point systems as you go to the physician's doctor. There is no paper follow-through for many of these things. So that has really improved our program over the years. With that, coming up, just current events that we have, Wellness on Wheels is in full swing. We've successfully been into the sheriff's office twice last week. We also had a chance to go over to Lane Ag Park and speak with some of our employees there. We're going to pause next week, and then we're also working to schedule time with each department that'll have us, and we'll be there to just educate on the new Know Your Numbers campaign, any of the Cigna programs. We'll bring some snacks and prizes. We'll try to make it as fun as we can. But if you get an email from myself or Lee Smith, my partner in crime, we will be reaching out to you to get to your departments. That said, the Life Services EAP program for April, it's available as of April 16th on demand. It's about understanding resilience. The Life Services EAP program, it's a Healthy Mind Toolkit, will be available May 21st for the month of May. And we also have a lifestyle management class. We're going to do lunch on the go, some different things that you can do at your work sites. And that will be May 9th at 5 p.m. over at the Lane Ag classroom. Two things that I failed to mention on this report as well. May 9th, we're having the mobile mammography unit from St. Thomas come by. It'll be at the Blackman Elementary School on May 9th. Two communication pieces went out about that to the county as well, and I appreciate the Board of Ed sending that out. So there are a few dates still available. I'll be resending those communications again just to get those last-minute appointments. But also May 20th, we'll have the mobile mammography unit over here at the Rutherford County Health Department. So we'll have 2 locations. We may add a third. We're currently working on a third time for that to hit the Smyrna area. But that'll conclude my report.
Okay. Any questions? Is there a motion to accept the report? Got a motion and a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye. All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Chapman. Next, we have the March report for Midpoint. Ms. McNair. How are you today? I'm doing well, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. If you can open our report to the first page, we're going to look at our total clinic visits. For March, we saw 1,233. That does include face-to-face visits as well as some of those non-face-to-face encounters that we have spoken about previously. The next page is our wellness visits. Our wellness coordinator saw 22 follow-ups. And I apologize, I just noticed this says February, it was in March. She saw 22 follow-ups with 3 initial visits for a total of 25. I do want to make note there that my wellness coordinator was only in the office for 2 weeks out of last month. She was in Hawaii getting married, so she was only there for 2 weeks, and that's why you see the decrease in her visits there. The registered dietitian saw a total of 12 visits with 11 follow-ups and 1 initial. Okay, next page there is our per employee per month summary. For the month of March 2019, total operating cost was at $230,274 with a per employee per month of $37 with an employee count of 6,149. And you see that number fluctuate because we're getting monthly updates from Mr. Elam's department for the employee counts. The last page there is our incoming calls at MedPoint. So in March, we had 2,055 with an average per day of 98 incoming calls. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
Lois, you're recognized.
If we go back to the wellness visits, and we look at the wellness coordinator and the registered dietitian, I see we had 25 visits in February, and again, you said she was out for 2 weeks.
I'm sorry. There's a typo on the report. It's for March. That should be for
Right, well, I meant for
okay.
March. I'm sorry, I caught that. But I'm just wondering, what is the capacity for each of those positions? If there's 25 visits, is she at full capacity?
So she's a full-time employee, 40 hours per week. She is not currently at full capacity, so we have different ways of referrals. We have internal from our providers there at the MedPoint Clinic. She has peer referrals, and we had a waiting list, and I'm going to look to Hillary in the audience, who's our wellness coordinator. We reach out to those different methods whenever we have those referrals, and she documents those outreaches, whether it be email, phone conversations. She looks at that on a weekly basis. If they don't return her email, she's emailing them again, trying to make contact. So we have some patients that are on the list to be seen, but have not been scheduled yet due to connecting with the patient.
And the capacity metric similar for the dietitian?
And she's a 20-hour-a-week employee, so that's why her numbers are usually half of the wellness coordinators.
So how many, for each of those, how many would be at capacity? How many visits would be? Are they every 15 minutes, 30 minutes?
It depends on the type of visits they are. So if they're an initial visit, typically those last about an hour long, just for the one-on-one counseling, not prep or, doing any research for exercises or nutrition plans, things of that nature. If it's a follow-up appointment, those typically run anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the patient that they are seeing.
Any other questions? Seeing none, there's a motion to accept the report. So, got a motion? Is there a second? Commissioner Allen. And a second. Lois Miller. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Last on the agenda is our flexible spending account. Jay Brown.
Go ahead. All right, last month, we performed an RFP for the flexible spending account, so the FSA account that currently has about 1,200 employees on the plan. Your current vendor's WageWorks. The contract had expired, so that's the reason to do the RFP. We did receive 6 proposals back that my team has been reviewing, and we provided the spreadsheet for you guys to review in really small print, as you can see. We'll work on that for next time. I need my glasses. But essentially, the WageWorks offered, the renewal came in at a little bit less than last time. So if you look at the very bottom, there was about a $5,600 annual savings with WageWorks for a 3-year contract there, which was about 11.4% savings. The next best proposal, we kind of have them in line from left to right. Discovery was our next best proposal, coming in similarly priced, a little bit less, so around 11% less, another $5,000 below. Some things we had concerns with after talking with both risk management and the financial team and department. Hours of service for Discovery is during the week, so that was a concern. Also, the file transfer type. This, if you guys, I wasn't here the last time, but we did look at a new FSA vendor in the past, and we had some file transfer issues with the new vendor. So we asked a lot more questions around that this go around, and so that was a concern, was the pipe delimited format. So that was a concern there. PayFlex was another one that we looked through. Their price was a little bit less than the current. Some of the issues we wrote down with PayFlex is really just wasn't worth the price to look at them as far as the savings. Task, another one from a price perspective that looked favorable. Task is a vendor that you guys had used in the past and had some negative feedback from employees and from risk management for poor service, and that was one of the reasons you left them prior. So it's a consideration for them. Cigna did propose they're higher than the incumbent. And then Health Equity was on here. They were lower, but they were non-compliant in some of the contracts that they didn't sign. So when we looked at this, in theory, there's a lot of information provided on this spreadsheet. We had Discovery really listed as the top alternative, but then really after talking with risk management and the financial team and looking at when you change the FSA product, how much work goes into that from an administrative perspective, as far as working with the file feeds, getting the banking set up, as well as from the employee's perspective. When you change the FSA from the member's perspective, there's a blackout period. It's a time where you can't use your FSA card. There's a lot of transition questions that we take internally with calls. And so when we looked at Discovery saving overall about almost $5,000 over the WageWorks renewal, in talking with the different departments, the cost of the transition and hours and disruption to the members was going to be like $12,000 to $15,000. So the decision at the end of the day, especially since we haven't had those same service issues with WageWorks that we had with the prior vendor, and because they came off their current rate a little bit, so we're able to save $5,600, the thought is WageWorks may be the better offer. But I'll open it up for questions or anything if you want to kind of go down through any of the columns or have any other questions.
I know this is a lot to take in all at one time, but any questions or discussion? I think it's laid out fairly well for us. Is there a recommendation from staff?
Yes, our recommendation is WageWorks. Everything seems to be going smooth with them, and the difference in the price, what it would take to transfer all the documents and feed the data to another program. We just do not feel like the difference in the price would be feasible to change.
Okay. You've heard recommendation from staff. Recommendation or questions? Yes, ma'am.
Not really a question, just based on looking at these things, the items here that are always presented to us, and the difference between WageWorks and Discovery Benefits, ultimately, it's $4,952 difference between the two of them, and for the less than $5,000, there's no need to make it hard on the employees that actually have this. So for the $5,000, we're already saving, and the difference of the $5,000, it's not going to be that big of a savings if you've got the headache for it. So I'll go ahead and make the motion that we do forward on the recommendation for WageWorks to stay as our flexible spending account.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Questions? Lois?
I don't have a question, I have a comment, and Jay actually alluded to this, but when you take a look at the savings of roughly $5,000 for the next best vendor, and you have the problem with the hours that they offered us, they didn't offer service hours on the weekends, and again, the file type that they had, and then when you add in the cost of conversion being prep and programming and testing, and with a minimum of at least 3 departments invested in that process, there wasn't a savings. It actually would be a cost to move. So that's another good argument for staying with the incumbent.
So having the ability to call on the weekends, have our employees call on the weekends is worth more than $5,000,
Least,
I would say, right? Because usually that's when you need them. I don't know why it happens that way on the weekends. Never happens on Wednesday. I don't know, everybody's going to church, I guess. So. Okay, any further discussion?
Mayor Kentron, if I could just point out one thing. WageWorks has also offered a 3-year
Rate guarantee?
rate guarantee, and I'm not sure that if it was in the request for proposals, but we might want to, if we're going to do that, put that in the motion. If not, then we'd be back here a year from now with the same thing.
Okay, so would you accept that in your motion, that the 3-year rate guarantee? So we have that on record in the minutes that they were offering the 3-year rate guarantee, like some of the other companies have provided in their quotes as well. Okay. We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I probably want to call the roll on this. We'll call the roll. I'm sorry? Yes. Call the roll, Madam Secretary.
Preble Acton. Commissioner Rhonda Allen. Dr. Andrea Anthony. Jim Bowles. Amber Brown. Christy Crowell. Mary Hickerson. Deborah Kennedy. Lois Miller. Commissioner Alan McAdoo. Commissioner Jeff Phillips. Jeff Sandvig. Shante Sherrill. And Mayor Bill Ketchum.
Yes. Okay. Motion passes. So we'll renew our contract with WageWorks. Commissioner Phillips.
Before we leave this, could maybe bring me a little bit more up to date on the flexible spending account, all employees eligible, and does that account just cover the employee, or could it be employees' families, even though they may not be on the medical roll, an employee's kids or spouse could be covered under the flexible spending? Is that correct?
Correct.
That's correct. And is it fully funded by the employee themselves, or it's fully funded by, so what's the expense here? Just an administrative expense? Okay.
Yeah, really just that expense there.
So any employee would have a flexible spending account available to them. And they choose however much they want to put in there up to a certain percent, which is?
I don't know your dollar amount off the top of my head. I can research that and get back to you. It's different for single and family. You guys know?
15, 2,500, I'm not sure.
I can find that out.
A percentage or a dollar
It's a
amount?
dollar. It's a flat dollar amount
It's
for
a dollar
single,
amount.
and then family has a higher amount.
Thank you.
I want to clarify, it's only for full-time employees, not part-time.
Full-time.
Full-time only. Correct. It's only for full-time employees.
Benefit eligible, right?
Benefit eligible employees. Let me rephrase that. Benefit eligible employees.
Other questions? Okay. Anything else, any other business to come before the committee today? Seeing none, I guess we will see you next month. We'll stand in adjournment.